All right, well, welcome everybody to the 1:30 technical session. This is about as technical as it's going to get. Closing the door right there. Ooh, we're in a private place. So this session is called Why Engineers Can't Sell. Who says? Let's get it together, man. Come on, bro. Listen, I got 99 problems. That's not one of them, all right? So my name's Ben Broussard. I'm here to moderate these two. You should be very proud of your panel today, okay? Because they've been working pretty hard at this. We have met several times over the past few months. Things have got kind of tense in these meetings. A couple times I had to back out and let them count to 5. And even last night we were at the hotel bar, finishing everything off. They got a little out of control. I put them out in the street, and then I got the video camera, and this is what happened.
You're not a douche. Let's play a game, all right? On the count of 3, name your favorite dinosaur. Don't even think about it. Just name it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Velociraptor.
Favorite non-pornographic magazine or two?
Good housekeeping.
If you were a Jim, who's the one guy you'd sleep with?
Los Samos.
What? You mean doesn't become best friends? Yeah. Hawaiian garage?
Yeah.
Long road here.
That's right. So we're here. I want to introduce our panel today. Let's actually start with Clayton George right here. Clayton is the founder and principal engineer at PES, a mechanical engineering consulting firm established in 2009 to assist oil and gas service companies, operators, and contractors with their equipment, compliance, and design needs. As a degreed mechanical engineer, Clayton has worked in the design, engineering, and construction industry for over 15 years. So you started when you were about 14? Thanks. Okay. His educational background consists of a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering and a master's degree in business administration, both from the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. He is a certified licensed professional engineer and the winner of the 2015 LAGCO Innovate Challenge for the product flange cuff. I remember that. Clayton's on the board of directors and sitting treasurer of the Petroleum Club of Lafayette, member of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, and a member of the UL Lafayette Alumni Association. Let's give a hand for Mr. Clayton George. Okay. All right. So in this corner over here, weighing in at?
Heavy.
Thank you. We've got Tully Blanchard. Tully is a business development professional with over 20 years in sales experience over several different industries. He is a graduate of the University of Louisiana at Lafayette in business management and currently sits on the board of directors for LAGCO. He chairs the Young Professionals of LAGCO and was on the past steering committee member for the Future Energy Professionals program. He's also a 10-year military veteran, having served as a combat engineer with the 1088th, there it is, Engineering Battalion and the 256 Tiger Brigade. He's currently the business development manager for Billet CNC, an advanced manufacturing company, and Synergy Resources. Let's have a hand for Tully. All right. So we're going to talk, they're going to tell you, but throughout the course of the conversation, if you have questions, I actually give you permission to have your phone out throughout the entire presentation, because I want you to text your questions to this phone number. They're going to come straight to my pocket, and so sometime throughout the deal, we're going to pick it out, we're going to find questions, and even if I have your number in my phone, I promise I won't sell you out. All right? All right, so let's get started. Okay, so Clayton, why is it that engineers can't sell? Tell me this. Selling, it comes with decision making. How, in your opinion, your professional opinion, how does the mind make decisions?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Well, first of all, I'd just like to thank Tully for actually showing up on time. Not glued to his phone or, at some charity golf course. Glad to see you make time for us today, Tully. But y'all know Tully. I mean, he's all over the place. So yeah, we're in the middle of a political season right now. You can't drive 100 yards down the road without seeing 10 campaign ads. Who in here, quick show of hands, who's witnessed just an online brutal Facebook political argument online? Anyone seeing? They're getting pretty heated right now, right? do they ever end with your opponent at the end saying, wow, you've really changed my mind? Like, I see your way of thinking, right? No, because does shouting facts at someone, does it ever really change their opinion? You see, in order to change people's mind, in order to persuade people, it's difficult. But in order to do that, we have to know how the brain actually makes decisions. You know, who's bought a car in the last 6 months or so? A year? Yeah, what'd you get? Anybody? What's that? Why a Yukon? You have a big family? Okay. Anybody else? F-150. You a Ford man? Yeah. Chevy be damned. Okay. How about your home? Think about the time when you made the monumental decision of purchasing your home. You know, what went into that decision? You know, you compared the price per square foot probably, you know, interest rates, premiums, you know, what your note would be, you know, all logical decisions. Or, you know, if you're honest with yourself, did you really just consider, you know, maybe it had a beautiful backyard that your kids can play in. Maybe it had an awesome man cave that you really wanted to hang your deer or fish on. Or maybe your wife, you know, just fell in love with this bright white kitchen. You know, are these logical decisions? You see, there's two sides of the brain. There's a logical and an emotional side. And if we're really honest with ourselves, and science will back this up, we actually make decisions at the emotional level. It's only after that we made that decision that we justify it and rationalize it with logic and facts. You know, think about a salesman who might be trying to sell you a home security system for your home. Do they go into, you know, all the bells and whistles of the panel, the functionality of it, or do they just like delicately put their hand on their heart and say, God forbid something should ever happen to your family and you're not protected? Clearly, it's emotional, right? We're getting to the emotional brain. We have to tap into that emotional brain first if we want to have any luck at influencing people. You know, my wife's here. She's a real estate agent. You know, I can't think of any property that she's ever showed that is not going to move today. You better act fast, right? You have to create some sense of urgency and emotion. These are clearly logical decisions. They're not logical decisions. They're based on emotion. We like to think that we're factual creatures that, you know, reason things and we think things out. But at the end of the day, to influence someone, we have to get them to create that emotional decision first if we want to sell to them. And it's tough as engineers to do it.
Kelly, you got a mic?
Can you guys hear me?
Not the mic. You're still wired up.
Yeah.
Telly, you are the salesman. You've got experience in selling. Engineers don't necessarily have that. Give me an example of emotional selling from your experience.
Yeah, first of all, Clayton, thank you for letting me come and speak to you guys today and do this to do this conversation. And thank you also for the proverbial PowerPoint. This should be exciting, man. Way to go. So, no, guys, what Clayton is talking about is emotional buying. And as engineers, which I presume some of you are in this room, you don't particularly run towards emotion. It's something that you don't inherently like to dwell in, right? But if you recognize the fact that all sales end with an emotional buying decision, thank you, Ben. It's much easier to get to the destination that you're trying to get to. So we logically build up a case of facts and analytics, and we do what you do what engineers do. And then at the end, believe it or not, you do make the decision based off of emotion. I'll give you an abstract example because most of you engineers would like to have an example of what I'm talking about. So to dummy it down a little bit for the sales folks in the room, because we're not as smart as you guys, recently we were supposed to have a cold front come in, right? So you look at the cabinet, right, and you start thinking, man, this is good. I got a gumbo. I got the first gumbo of the season coming up. So you start to think about the list of ingredients, right? Am I going to do garlic? Am I going to leave the garlic out? Am I going to use okra? Am I going shrimp, chicken? What are we going to do here? And then, of course, the weatherman gets it wrong, okay? And so you're left in perpetual unresolved conflict, and you're looking at your cabinet with all of these ingredients that you bought. And I don't know about you, but I can't go to Nunu's without spending $150. So, you know, and then you start looking at the MagnaLite, and the MagnaLite starts looking back at you, and you start looking back at the MagnaLite. And we might have a 2-degree temperature swing, but in the end, you say, you know what? I'm cooking a damn gumbo. That's it. And that trigger is emotion. It's no, I'm not getting to this point and not gonna cook a gumbo. It's an emotional decision. And I know I'm making a lot of fun about it, guys, but if you apply that to the sales process, that's exactly what happens. The same thing happens in insurance sales. I did gumbo because it would be more funny, but if you think about an insurance person, he surfaces fear. He surfaces emotion, risk. And you calculate all of these, right? But it isn't until he kind of hits you in the rib with what happens if you die or your kid's going to be taken care of that you really decide emotionally, man, I need to make a decision here. I don't want to buy insurance. It's not as sexy as the Ford F-150 or the Chevy, but I got to have it, right? So you emotionally decide in that moment to buy. So, you know, I would encourage you all, if we are all to accept that as fact, then don't run from it. And look, I get it as engineers, it's difficult to do, but you know, it's important also to allow your clients the opportunity to live emotionally inside of their pains and their struggles. It's also important for you as a salesperson, or a sales engineer, I guess in this context, to live inside of that pain with them emotionally and establish yourself at that moment as a true partner in their pain, a shareholder, if you will, in their struggle. That fosters trust. That fosters an environment where a transaction is made. So,
I'm merely here to bring the mic back and forth. Thank you very much. I said, Clayton, as I bring you the mic, okay, you're an engineer. We got engineers in the room. Engineers aren't necessarily known as the most, outgoing, bubbly, personable folks. Yet you sell, right?
Sure.
Okay, so where do you even start?
Well, Ben, that's a really good question because, believe it or not, engineers, technical people, we're not necessarily oozing with just enthusiasm, maybe like this guy here. But we can still be interesting. It's still very easy to be interesting. In order to do it, we just have to be interested in the other person. Because every one of us has a story to tell. And we all just desperately want someone to listen to that story. The New York Telephone Company in the 1960s did a study. They recorded thousands of telephone conversations. This was back when people still spoke on landline telephones. They recorded thousands of conversations to see what the most popular word used in the English language was. What's the most popular word spoken on the telephone? Me? Very close. I heard something. I? Why is it I?
Because people like to talk about themselves.
Everyone's favorite subject to talk about themselves, right? Everyone loves talking about themselves. It is scientifically proven that speaking about yourself will release more positive endorphins and hormones than the act of physical intimacy.
Wait, what?
Talking about yourself is literally better than sex. So if we want to influence people, if we want to sway someone's opinion to get a customer to trust us, we have to get them talking about themselves. We have to establish rapport and become best friends within a very short amount of time. We may have 5 seconds, we may have 5 minutes. So if we want to get them to talk about themselves, we have to ask questions. And we have to ask the right questions. And also, as a technical person who proceduralizes every single thing, it's a good idea to script these questions sometimes. So we start off with, basic personal questions to break the ice. How long have you been in this field? What made you want to get into sales? What do you like most about what you do? They sound like patronizing questions. They sound simple and common sense, but if you do that, you can literally see the person's tone and body language change instantly. Because we all like to talk about ourselves, right? So after we, do the icebreaker questions, the personal questions, we move on to the professional, business questions. What is your biggest problem when dealing with a machine shop? What is your biggest concern when working with engineers? What do you look for in an accounting firm? And we let them go on. It's very key when you're trying to sell, when you're trying to influence someone at this point. We don't want to solve their problems right away. We have to, now's not the time to solve their problems. We have to listen to their problems. I don't know, my wife's here. I know some of y'all's wives may come home in a bad mood sometimes. Mine never does. She loves me so much. Wow. But I've heard, sometimes wives can get in a bad mood. Maybe she got in a fight with her mother-in-law. Maybe, the kids aren't listening. Maybe her boss is just a real jerk. She comes home, she tells us about her problems, and as men, what do we always just erroneously and incorrectly try to do? Solve them, right? You get a gold star today, Jade. You're on fire. Yeah, we try to solve them, right? Does that work? Because why? She doesn't want us to solve her problems. She wants us to do what? Listen to them. She just wants to be heard. Because none of us want to be sold to. None of us want to be told what to do. We all want to feel like we arrived at conclusions on our own. So she just wants us to listen to them. And it works the same way in a client's office when you're selling. Maybe you're trying to influence a client. Maybe you're trying to influence your boss to give you a raise. PES employees back there, don't listen to this section. But can I have it? I'm not ready to give it up. No, you can't have it yet. I'm talking about myself right now, right? Me, myself, and I. Anyway. So whoever we're trying to influence, we have to get them talking about themselves. We have to, now's not the time to solve their problems. We have to listen to them. When a customer says, man, my last engineering firm, they never delivered on time. It's tempting, just like when your wife comes in the door and, talks about her problems, to say, well, we're going to be on time. We're going to do this. We're great at that. But we don't do it here. Now's not the time to solve their problems. Now's actually the time to accent their problems, to put a magnifying glass on them. Let them speak about it. And they will build you a roadmap for how they can be influenced, for how you can sell to them. And it's only after that we've listened to them and understand their problem, then, it's time to make our point.
Something leads me to believe that you have a personal story that you want to tell about this. I've known you for a long time. We used to kick it like Joe and Obama, but it's been a while. But just tell some stories.
No, and look, I'll tell you guys, intelligence gathering is not a very sexy subject, although I did get Clayton to drop the PowerPoint and talk about sex, so mission accomplished. But that's right. But guys, storytelling, and look, as engineers, don't tell your story. If you're shy and you're not a salesperson, then don't be. Be yourself. It's important that you're authentic in the selling process. But let them tell their story. It's going to inform the sale. It's going to foster a space that allows him to be vulnerable or her to be vulnerable. And he's going to drop nuggets of information that are valuable to the selling process. So invite that in. And then you don't have to talk as much, man. You get them talking about themselves, But the other thing is, stop trying to rush. I know not just engineers, salespeople sometimes, we get caught up in that. We try to rush to the finite object called the sale, and we forget to listen. And going back to emotion, if you want your clients to live emotionally inside of their pain, you have to let them swim in it, literally. And then you have to be the person standing across the desk from them at that moment. And I bet you there's not a whole lot of engineers that are going into selling situations that are saying, tell me your story. And I know it sounds corny, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of folks that have great stories, especially in our industry. But there's not a lot of folks that have people to tell their story to. It's a really, really powerful selling tool. It's an easy way for you to switch the emphasis and the attention on the other person instead of an engineer feeling uncomfortable about talking about themselves. So, Ben wants me to tell a story. I'll tell you. So I've been blessed to be a part of multiple industries and multiple sales processes through my 20-plus sales career. But I worked for a company called Home Furniture Company. It was a large-scale furniture distribution company. We did both inside and we did corporate sales. That's kind of how I got back into the oil and gas business, but I did a lot of work with oil field companies. But man, one month I was having a pretty tough month. I was struggling, couldn't quite get the sale. So I reached out to a mentor, which is something that I also encourage you guys to do, but it's important. But I reached out to him and I said, man, I'm having a tough month. I can't figure this out. I'm not getting to the sales. And he said, and we had just implemented this new software application where you could take the customer to the computer and you could kind of conceptually design their space alongside of them. It was a very cool selling tool. And he asked me, he said, are you getting into their space? And I didn't kind of understand him at first. I didn't understand what he was trying to get at. He said, have you asked them have you asked them to walk inside of their room? And that really kind of drove it home. And so what I started doing was, and if you can imagine this, I'm a pretty big guy, and when you walk into a furniture store, here I come running towards you. It's not a pretty sight. And the only thing I represent is I'm missing a college football game, and this dude's about to take $3,500 away from me. It's not a welcome, but anyway, so I had to kind of figure out how to turn that around. And what I started doing, because of this software application that we had, is I started asking, ma'am, let me ask you a question. You look like you're struggling with trying to find the right stuff for the space that you're in. Would you allow me into your room? And it's a kind of a shock statement, but what I did was I said, let's talk about your wall color. Tell me what your sofa looks like. Approximately what's the dimensions of it? Let's plug it into the computer. Let's start to kind of virtually draw up this space. And what I found was it was a physiological change in that person. You could see their body language change as they began to talk about their space, their home. And what it allowed me to do was to get into a very personal and private space that no other salesperson that day had gotten into. And as we walked through her home and we designed it, she had, literally at that moment, let me into a space. And instead of feeling like when she left, and this includes the husband, that day they didn't feel like they were sold. You know that feeling that you walk away from a car lot and I got sold, man. It's not a good feeling. But people love to buy. And I saw that she got excited about the buying process, and the husband got excited about getting the hell out of the furniture store quicker. But it left a profound impact on me and my methods. And it allowed me to sort of, I guess, put myself in their chair. We call on a lot of folks, they're sitting across a desk, sitting in another chair. A lot of times we're thinking about our chair. I got to get to the sale. I got a sales meeting on Monday, but we forget to discover what's in the other side. What's their perception of value? I know I got to close a sale, right? My boss has beat me up. I got to hit the quota this month. And then, that pressure, it makes us not remember that it's not about us. And so I would encourage all of you guys to remember that when you're out there. Try to get into the other chair. Try to think like they think and understand their pain. Let them share their pain. Let them share their story.
So remember, throughout the course of the conversation, if you got questions for any of these guys, shoot a text to this phone number. We can get to them at the end. I promise it's anonymous. We've debated about how the brain makes decisions, whether it's the emotional side, the logical side. We've talked about sitting with pain. We've talked about intelligence gathering and those kind of things. What now? What do you do? What's next?
Well, we're in that room for a reason, right, Ben? I mean, we'd all love to go in there. We want to make friends. Listen to their stories, all this stuff. Well, we're in there to win their business. Or maybe we're not selling, maybe we're trying to influence them to a different decision, to vote for us, whatever it may be. We're in there for a reason. And what a lot of salesmen do, they literally, it sounds silly, but forget to actually ask for the sale, with ask being the key word. And the way to do that is we paraphrase his problems that we're hopefully just listening to. Mr. Customer, if I understand you correctly, it sounds like quality is your biggest concern. If I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like on-time deliveries really matter to you. Then if they validate it, we can actually ask him for the sale. Again, asking. Not backing them to a corner, but if you could get your deliveries on Wednesday instead of Friday, would you be willing to pay a premium for that? If you could get this in red instead of blue, would it affect your buying decision? Notice how we're not backing him to a corner. He doesn't have to give us a yes or no right there. We're just feeling him out. We're listening to him. But we have to ask for the sale. Because at the end of the day, making friends is great, but we're in there to close the sale.
Would you debate the phrase "close the sale"?
My God, I hate that statement. I think it's the most worn out, used, archaic statement in the sales world. Why on earth, in a relationship-based transaction, would you want to close anything? Think about it. Think about the connotation of closing. Don't close. Stop closing. Bury the damn statement. Instead of closing the sale, open the relationship. Open the partnership to more than the finite object of a transactional sale. It's not about one sale. You're not there to, what are you going to do, go drink a beer after? Because you need to create an environment that's reciprocal, mutually beneficial, that causes the repeat button to be pressed by him, not you. And the way to do that is to tell yourself, I'm not here to close. I'm here to open. I'm here to open the door to more transactions. Another thing is, guys, if we have teams, and I would assume being an engineer, most of you do, invite your team into the discussion. A lot of times as salespeople, we're out there selling team, and we don't bring our team into the equation. And as salespeople, I'm not delivering that product or service, so why am I the beneficiary of that? Why not bring those guys into that conversation? Invite their team into that conversation, and you be the host to that conversation, to that partnership. Think about the dynamic of that, the power of that. And nowadays, with the digital age that we live in, it's you don't have to do it in person. You can offer hey man, why don't we do a web conference between my team and yours? I'll cater the event with Uber food, and we'll feed you guys. It'll take 30 minutes of your time. I'll bring in my engineers. I'll bring in my ops team. I'll bring in our programmers. And we'll have this cross-functional conversation. And then all of a sudden, you don't have to be the salesperson anymore, And the sale is just something that happens somewhere along the way. Instead of asking for it, it just happens as a result of you digging in and bringing in your team.
So let's stay on that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
You've gone through the whole process. You're sitting in there and nothing's happening. How do you push it forward?
So I use two simple words. What's next? And if you think about that, you put the ball back in their court when you ask that question. They have to answer. It's unfortunate they can't run from you. And it's simple. It's kind of non-threatening, but you simply say, what's next? He's got to tell you. Well, I guess I'll send you the NDA. I guess I'll send you the paperwork so we can get set up as a vendor. I guess we'll set up a team conference, but like you mentioned. But my point is, don't try to extract something that's unnatural. Just put it in his court. What's next? Think about it. It's easy, it's simple, but it requires action.
Fabulous. We're already starting to get a couple questions in. This one's actually for Clayton over here. Hey, so Clayton, if you're an engineer and you can sell, why do you need salesmen?
If you're an engineer and you can sell, why do you need salesmen is the question? Well, because these facts, these theories are, very instrumental. I mean, if used properly, you can really influence people. But, when you have a salesman like Tully, someone who does it every day, who's an expert at it, been doing it over 20 years, you can sharpen these skills. And just like anything you practice, you can get better at it. And the guy who's doing it every day is the guy who's going to be the sensei.
Let's just tell, you don't even need a microphone. I mean, you just go loud. Here, Clayton, you can have this. Okay, I got another one for Tully. Okay, so what happens, yeah, you can just put it down, whatever. All right, by the way, your grammar is impeccable, all right? All right, so what about when someone tells you no? Is it now no forever? What does that mean?
Means what's next? Means you think you're telling me no, but you ain't telling me no. I'm coming back. You ain't getting rid of me on a no. That's just what I hear. That just means we going to the next step. That's it, man. So, look, guys, the other thing, I'm glad you brought that up because we need, and as engineers, I think that, look, guys, it is a science. To answer the question, selling is a science. It's a behavioral science. It's psychology. And as engineers, guys, you got a lot of information at your fingertips. I got to go out and ask for it. You guys have it inside of your brains already. Establish a position of strength because of that information. If a client's, it's not if he tells you no, the client is going to tell you no at some point in your sales engineer career. So you have to be prepared to answer that question, and you have to be prepared in a way that's meaningful and profound and forward moving. And you take control of that tempo of that conversation. If you leave it to him, yeah, he's going to kick your ass out of the room. But if you leave it to yourself and you control what's next, and you assume a position of strength, and not in a manipulative way, but in a way that suggests, look, buddy, we're in this together. And look, that's the other thing, guys. This industry, look, I hate to put Tahaney and Greg on it, but you look, guys, y'all could attest. You can't do what you do without us, right? You depend on your supply chain. You can't do it, right? So let's stop kidding around. We need each other. You know what I mean? Assume that mindset of you need me. And we're going to figure this out one way or the other. We're either going to make the sale today or I'll be back next Tuesday. But you can make that decision on your own. So
the most valuable asset in the world is the ability to change people's minds.
Yeah.
Change their way of thinking.
Yeah. All right, this one's for both of you, and I'll start off with you. What happens when your client needs something and you know darn well that you can't handle it?
It's a tough one. It was a real tough one when I was starting out about 10 years ago. I just, new guy on the street. We wanted to tell everyone we could do everything. But it's a short-term win. You'll always burn by it, though. If you can't deliver on what you promise, no one's going to believe you next time you come in the room. It's that simple.
Rapid response. Same thing your operations team does every day. Be rapid in your response to say, customer, we can't do it. Our capacity is maxed out this month. I value you. I value your relationship. I value your business. But I want to tell you very quickly that we cannot respond. However, as a salesperson, I am still going to give value. We get caught up in a lot of talk about selling or adding value. That's another term you need to throw out of the window. Give value. Establish yourself as a person of value. Make sure that your client perceives you as valuable. Very, very important. What we're doing today, what all of you guys are doing today as volunteers, that is allowing someone to perceive you as bigger than self. You didn't have to volunteer, but you did. You jumped on the grenade. But it might pay dividends for you later on because somebody saw that. Somebody said, man, that guy's bigger than himself, man. He's doing something that gives back to our industry. Our industry's been good to us. You know, be civic minded. Jump on a committee. Be visible and be valuable.
Clayton, any closing statements?
Tough to follow that one up. You know, we're creating value is what we're doing. The ability to influence people, the ability to change people's minds is the most valuable skill on earth. You know, us engineers give the salesmen a hard time because they're always, you know, over-promising and make us just jump through all these hoops. But at the end of the day, someone's got to bring home the bacon. You know, someone's got to make it rain. Someone's got to bring work to the table. And as engineers, as technical people, you know, we're never going to be, you know, we might not be the most charismatic, you know, fun-loving, class clown type people, but we can still be good influencers of people by being interested in them.
Yeah, I'd leave y'all with this, guys. You know, if you're going to be in a sales role, understand the enormous importance of what you do, because literally you are the face of an organization. And if you start to think and you start to look around your organization and you see the people that put in the hard work, the blood, the sweat, the tears, well, guess what? You're their spokesperson, and that carries an enormous responsibility. So you have to be a steward of that, and it's not something to take lightly. But if you own that, you can easily establish your credentials and you can establish that command posture I talked about earlier. So I think that's very important. Are we about to close? Because I wanted to also.
We haven't had any questions since then, so go ahead.
So this is kind of off subject, but guys, we got an election coming up Saturday. And, you know, in this business, in this state, we've taken some licks, man. So I just want to thank y'all for letting us come talk to you today. I hope that we continue this conversation, and Clayton will show you guys some ways in which you can do that later. But Clayton and I started this thing on Facebook called Tully Tips, and it's really just a space for us all to either come and extract, or if you want, come and leave something of value so we can all kind of help each other get better. But anyway, going back to my statement man, go out and vote like the industry's at stake, because it is, and it's important, guys. We're our backs up against the wall, and it's a call of duty for all of us. So make sure you go out and vote with your heart and vote with this industry in mind, because it's been good to all of us. So we owe it to at least do that, and then bring a couple friends with you.
You got a list right here. You want to go over that?
Oh, no, that's just kind of, you know, 72% of statistics are made up on the spot. There is some science and reason to some of the facts we were quoting today. So they weren't just conjured out of thin air. There was some reference material if you're interested. You know, you can go on Tully Tips. We'll probably provide them there as well.
Awesome. Clayton, Tully, thank you. Let's have a hand for these guys.
You got a question, my man? Okay, all right.
Just stretching. Sean in the back.
You didn't like my question then, but you ignored me. So.
You sent it to the wrong number. It didn't come over.
You have the wrong number. Yeah, mine didn't come through. Dude, I sent you a question too.
Oh.
40, right?
That's fabulous. Yeah, that's the wrong number. Okay. So the preloaded questions from above. Okay, so there it is. So, hey, so some guy has got most of yours, those who already have, the ones that have come through. Okay, well, you know, we got 30 minutes. Okay, if y'all want the real number or what?
All right, Blaine, what's your question?
Oh, okay. I'll just ask it. So, I said, Clayton, as engineers, we're taught to learn by failure. Can you tell us about some of your sales failures and what you learned from them?
Oh, yeah. My first cold call. Took about sitting on the phone writing out exactly what I was going to say. It took about 30 minutes to work up the courage to actually dial the number. You know, a little nervous up here right now. You should have seen me then. You know, dialing the number. No, wait. You dial 6 digits. Wait, no. That's I got to say this right. Like, and you talk to them on the phone, and the first time you get them on the phone is, hey, it's Clayton. I do engineering. Blah, blah, blah. Can you call me? And it's that, yeah. Talking about failing 1,000 times is how we get good at something, right? That and reading 25 books on the subject matter is how we learn, as engineers, how to get better at things. But yeah, certainly we learn from failures. Certainly, there's been plenty of those.
So the last number is supposed to be a 0. Fabulous. Thank you. All right, so engineers like an equation to model a process. You give us an equation that equals a sale.
So, yeah. Equation that equals a sale. It's sales scripts, guys. I, at the risk of being called the engineer in the room, I proceduralize everything, right? A sales script is a very handy tool. And you'll get the argument that says, oh wait, no, it's going to sound too robotic, too mechanical. But think about all the movies and films that you watch. They pull at your emotions, they make you laugh, they make you cry, they're scripted. So the closest thing we have to an equation to selling is, a sales script can be very helpful. Especially, if you're a technical person, if you're not the type that, can freelance, can, shoot from the hip.
Yeah, they're all coming in now. Here we go.
All right.
Get ready, gentlemen. Okay, can both presenters explain how they handle a cold call on the phone to a potential client and the client does not want to or have time to listen to you, but they could use your services and this is your shot?
Big shot.
You, buddy.
Guys, we live in the age of, at your fingertips. In your iPhone, you have more information readily available to you than your grandparents, your dad. It would be ridiculous for you to have a cold call. In this world, there's no such thing. You have too much information at your fingertips. It's a warm call. You can get on LinkedIn, you can find out, you can get on Facebook and find out if he likes the Saints or if he likes to hunt or fish or whatever. You can already have a set of facts built up for when you go on that sales call. And that's your job. Your job is to prep for that call, guys. You need to we talked a lot about putting it on them, but before that, you need to also have that discernment between, what do I think is going to be that trigger that triggers him emotionally to buy? And you can easily find it these days, guys. People put their lives on Facebook. They put their products and their technology on LinkedIn and so it just gives you a lot of information. It gives you a lot of ground to sort of develop that tree. So
yeah. And when you're making a cold call, there's one very, very important fact to remember. 2, actually. The customer doesn't care about you, and he doesn't care about your product. So if you want to sell to him, you have to get his attention with some sort of emotion, create some sense of urgency. Have you heard about this new API code that's going into effect in a year? That's not a logical sell, that's emotional. He's going to feel like he's out of control. No, I don't know about that. I'd love to set up a meeting with you, Mr. Customer, because that is, would you agree, Telly, the number one purpose of a cold call is to set a meeting, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's what it's about. It's about what's next. Ben hit it on the head,
All right. Again, that's a 0, not a 2 at the end. All right. So most engineering is problem solving. What's some tips when trying to sell? Again, your spelling. Here it is. Okay. Trying to sell a service and not a product, especially a service that you might not be sure if your team can handle, and still keep the relationship with the customer. Does that make sense?
Run that one by me again, Ben. Please.
Okay, run on. Here we go. All right. Most engineering is problem solving. What is some tips when trying to sell a service and not a product, especially a service that you might not be sure if your team can handle, but still keep the relationship with the customer? Maybe like testing out something new. We may have this service in the future. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, honesty, first of all. You have to be honest. We've never done this before, but we'd be willing to research it for you. Because, if you're lying, at the end of the day, you're just manipulating. But yeah, if you can't do it, we need to be honest in the fact that we can't offer that service. And it's difficult at times, but it goes a long way, when you are honest with them, tell them you can't do it.
Yeah, integrity, guys. Don't ever abandon integrity. We recently had a situation, and I mentioned that we offer filters on the Synergy side, and this person was with a large pipeline operator and took it that I meant we do filtration. And before I knew it, I had 12 people on a call, and I said, whoa, hold on, time out. We're going a little too fast. And so I was very honest, very quick. I dialed a couple numbers. I had her connected with some people that could handle it. It wasn't fun to walk away because it was a big opportunity. But she appreciated that I was able to do that very quickly, kind of got out of her bind. So she asked me, the first thing she said was, Tully, I need you. And so I couldn't provide that service or product, but I still provided value. I still got her connected to people that could, and she appreciated it, and it's going to reciprocate. We're going to finally be able to sell what we sell to her here very shortly as a result of me not saying, we ain't got it, we can't do it. Man, look. A can-do attitude can take you places in this world, guys, especially in the world we live in now. Hard work is the commodity. It's not the degree. It's the person that wants to roll up their sleeves, man, and go get it, So.
All right, this is a great question right here. So you both talk about getting the next sale, but let's hear about your strategy on account and management once you've won the sale. Managing your customers to get continuous business so the next guy doesn't come in behind you. I've seen several times once individuals win sales with the same customer, they get comfortable, spend more time focusing on finding new customers and forget about the old guy.
Yep. After action reviews, you have to, after you close a job, after you finish a product, you have to follow up. Did we follow through on the promises we made? And it's important to pay attention to our promises, right? We can't do everything. No one can do everything well. We have to be honest about what we can and what we can't do. We're really good at this. We're really bad at that, to where we have clear promises, and the after-action review follows up to ensure that, Mr. Customer, did we meet these promises? Did we do everything we said we were going to do? So part of the process that gets forgotten a lot.
Yeah, so for some of us that have the fortune and the misfortune of having CRM, it's a great tool, or HubSpot, or whatever you're using. But CRM is only as good as the company that uses it. I mean, if you got the sales team that's plugging in the information, but it's not communicating to the ops team, what the hell are you doing? So now, if you do have that in process, and it does work very effectively to sort of data mine your clients and collectively hold each other accountable to our task. But if you don't, you can develop processes with your iPhone, or with your Samsung, where you can, what I do is, so I'll go into a sales call, right? As soon as I get out in the parking lot, I get on my calendar that reminded me to go to the appointment, and I go in the notes section and I write down literally every piece of important information. And then I'll set a follow-up so that I don't forget, because we easily forget, guys. And
you made a follow-up with him, or a follow-up for yourself to reach out to him?
A follow-up with so I follow up with myself to reach out. Yeah, and I'll do it on a Monday, so that way I know I'm going to try to set up something for Thursday in Houston or whatever. But I got to go follow up, because man, you can easily, and there's so many opportunities that are just left unturned, So.
All right. So again, the phone number has a 0 on the end, not the 2. This is a great question. Clayton, how do you do damage control when the project falls apart?
Write a script, right? We have kind of an unofficial script at PES that we use. It's called officially the mess up script and unofficially the F up script. So
is one worse?
No, they're the same thing. It's the street name is the F up script, but it kind of goes back to when we're establishing rapport. We can't be straight out of the gates to apologize. We have to ask questions to make sure we're understanding with the customer what we actually messed up. We ask the questions, we listen, then only after we listen, we paraphrase it. We say, if I understand you correctly, it seems like our deliveries have slipped. And then we apologize. Very critical, because no one does everything perfect. If we can listen more than we speak when we apologize. 2 ears, 1 mouth.
Are excuses ever a part of this plan?
No, absolutely not. No, I mean, just honesty. Just be real. Look, hey, we messed up. We're humans. You know, I'm in the manufacturing business. We mess up all the time. It's why we buy that extra piece of material. It's just going to happen. And we live in a world that's, you know, we're inclined to mess up. So, man, I find that, you know, and Clayton, his company actually, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but anyway, Clayton, they have a really awesome way of responding to that type of struggle. I don't know if you want to talk about it at all, Clayton, but you know, he's got it printed out, and everybody in the organization is they're going to own that conversation because they've got a list right there in front of them, and it gives you every single, you know, objection and how to respond. And in every response, you're owning it, you're being vulnerable enough to own the mistake, but you're still finding a way to move the relationship forward. And that's important. That's very important.
Paraphrasing, on that note, paraphrasing is also a very good tool in actually empathizing with a customer when you make a mistake. Do I understand you correctly? You know, this machine part was out of tolerance. Am I correct? And it takes the venom out of their fangs. Oh, come down. You can see their body language. You can see their tone instantly change. Yeah, you're right. Well, I'm really sorry about that, Mr. Customer. Because if we apologize right off the bat on the phone, it comes off as insincere and fake.
Anything else? We just ran out of questions. You sent one over? Okay, you already got it? All right.
I have one more question. You started talking about the handover between sales and operations, and I've won a lot of work because I'll come in and do the first set of tasks that we want on the services side. And so how do you handle that? Because it's not always possible. Sometimes the project is so large that I can't fulfill my obligation to continue to sell and keep work coming in and execute on the project. So how do you facilitate that handover if you can't get other stakeholders in early in the process or anywhere in the process? How does that handover work?
That's a tough question, man. And I've never, fortunately for me, I haven't had that problem. You know, and so I probably am not the best person to answer the question because I like to make sure that I involve team because I sell team. I couldn't machine I can't do it. So I'm not really selling me. I'm selling my guys, man. So
I'd like to yield my time on the floor and this one to Mr. Sean Mallory in the back. Sean, come on up. Would you mind? Stand up. Everyone give him a big hand. He got that new suit, new haircut. He's looking good. Tell us, curious to get your thoughts on how we separate operations and sales, how it works, how we sometimes have to break the rules.
Yeah, it's very tough because I was on the project management design side for 8 years and then had to switch over to sales. So I know exactly how it needs to be done. And it's really, really hard to tell your customer you're giving me this and then just pass it on and kind of forget about it. But it works. First off, there's a design survey, right? So you go through the list of questions, you ask them the right questions, whatever questions I can get, I put it together in a nice template email that's already set up. It's called a handoff email. Mr. Customer, this is Sean Mallory. Nathan's going to be your project manager. He's going to be your one single point of contact from here on out. This is what we discussed. This is your delivery date. It's easy as that. Hand it off to have trust in your project managers and let them do the job. Project managers then have a survey, design survey we call. We got about 12 of them. They go through a list of about 20 questions. It's specific to each job. It's questions you learned along the process from making mistakes and doing things. Fill it out, stick it in the file. You don't have to call the customer back. You bang on the job and it's done. Easy.
Thank you.
Well, we are running up on time. We appreciate you being here today. I'm Ben, that's Tully, this is Clayton, and we are, y'all have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, man.
Yep.